Welcome to my quick and easy day 1 the Leviathan guide. The Leviathan's located in the exact same area as the Desert Treasure 2 quest, so I won't go over how to get here. From initial testing, it seems ranged is the way to go here, although I imagine a Tumakan's Shadow would also hit well on this boss, but I've not got one to try it. Remember, this is a day 1 guide, so gear recommendations could change, however the mechanics and fight overview here will help you out whenever you watch this. Just make sure to check the wiki for updated gear setups. The Leviathan fight is honestly the hardest one out of all 4 of the new bosses, making it quite hard to explain too, but I'll do my best. It's important to know the Leviathan has 4 attack phases. Phase 1, 3 ticks and it can use range and magic. Phase 2, 2 ticks and it can use range and magic. Phase 3, 2 ticks again, but this time it can use ranged magic and melee. And Phase 4, it's 1 tick, but it can use ranged magic and melee. Yep, you heard that right, 1 tick. It's important to remember these phases, hence why I made the infographic. Refer back to this time as I'll be referencing back to these. On the surface, this fight is fairly straightforward. The Leviathan starts in Phase 1, so you only have to deal with a slower, ranged and magic attack. The ranged are green and the magic are blue, and the damage is calculated on contact with your character. So make sure you're praying correctly when the orb physically hits you. If praying correctly, you'll take no damage from the orbs. After 6 attacks, the Leviathan drops stones onto the floor, so make sure to walk onto a tile that does not have falling stones, then hit the boss again. Now it moves on to attack phase 2. So the attacks are faster, and after 8 attacks it'll drop stones again and then move on to phase 3. This is where the melee orbs are introduced, which are coloured red. And now after 8 more attacks in this phase, it'll move on to phase 4. Now, did Jagex think every person in the game can flick prayers and react at a 0.6 seconds pace? No, but it is possible for some people. At this point, you can choose to simply 1-tick flick every single attack and take no damage if done correctly while DPSing the boss, moving when the stones fall. But unless you're called Wooks, this probably isn't a good idea. I can do it for quite a while, but one mistake and it's game over. So what do we do if we're not confident in 1-tick flicking? Well, the Leviathan has 2 special attacks that are hidden, and it's up to the player to activate them. When a player casts a shadow spell on the Leviathan, it'll become stunned. Once stunned, if the player attacks the Leviathan from the back, one of these 2 special abilities will activate. These special abilities cycle one after the other, but the one that it starts on is completely random. The first special ability is a rock throw, where around 9 rocks are thrown towards the player's location, and then a floor attack is instantly let out. Once the last rock has been thrown, make sure to stand behind any of the rocks to avoid this attack or you'll be hit for over a 50. The other special attack is a lightning wave. The Leviathan lets a burst of lightning out towards your location. You've got to run in a circle to avoid them. It fires the lightning 35 times, and if you get a small gap, you can land some attacks on it, but be careful not to fall behind into the lightning. To properly outpace this, you'll need to run in circles as close to the Leviathan as possible, which also means when you get the rock throw special, you need to make all the rocks go as far to the back of the room as possible, leaving you more room to run around in the centre. The reason these specials are important is they actually set back the Leviathan's attack phase. Once you activate the first special ability, the Leviathan gets set back to phase 2, lowering its attack speed and making the middle of the fight easier. Then, when you activate the second special, and any after that, the Leviathan's set back to phase 3. Once the Leviathan reaches around 200 hit points it enrages, moving permanently back to phase 2. However, constantly spawning rocks. Its melee attack also becomes incredibly strong, so do not stand next to the Leviathan here. During the enrage phase, the ranged and magic orbs will damage you through prayer. To prevent this, a white orb spawns and circles around the room. If you stand next to this orb and walk around with it, the chip damage stops and the Leviathan can no longer damage you through prayer. But again, do not stand in melee range. Now, this all sounds really confusing at this point, and honestly, it is. It's probably the most confusing fight out of these 4. So, let's run through an entire kill together, talking about each phase of the fight, as other than the special starting on a random one, the entire fight is very linear. Okay, so you go in, you attack the boss, and this is 6 attacks, really nice and chill, you don't take any damage, you can stand completely still. Then, rocks are going to fall, and you just move 1 tile to the side wherever rocks are not. 8 attacks later, rocks will fall again, and it'll move on to phase 3. This is where the melee orbs are going to be introduced. As you can see, they're orangey red, they look like shurikens. Now, after this, you instantly should shadow the boss, because it's going to move to the 1-tick cycle. So the faster you can get it stunned, the better. Move to the back of the boss and hit it, and then you'll get a random special. In this case, I got lightning, so just run around the center and attack it when you can, but if you don't want to attack it, that's fine. You do not have to here. Just try not to get damaged. Now that's over, you get back to attacking it. After special 1, it's back at attack phase 2, so it can only use magic and range. Once again, the cycle's reset, so the stones fall, you move to the side, and then it's in attack phase 3, so it can use melee again. And then at the end of this phase, shadow it again as fast as you can to get the second special. This time the special will be the opposite to whatever you got at the beginning, so this one will be the stones. Run around to avoid them. And then on the last one, run behind the rocks. I got damaged then because I misclicked, but that's fine. You can stand still again at this point, but remember, melee is involved because it gets set back to attack phase 3. At this point, it's enraged, you just hit it, try to follow the orb around and pray properly, and like I just got hit then, try not to be in melee distance. If you've not got the DPS to get it to the enrage at this point, you'll just repeat the process of the specials until you're at this point. And then, just kill the boss. Nice and simple. Now, there are a couple of issues that you need to watch out for. Firstly, you need to make sure that you don't trap yourselves in the rocks, or else you just instantly lose. You can't attack through or past rocks. You always have to move out the way of them. So if you trap yourself, it is a dead run. Also, do not proc the enrage at the same time as the lightning special, or it'll look like this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the guide. This is a pretty confusing boss, so let me know how I did at explaining it. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, feel free to subscribe. We're getting all 4 Desert Treasure 2 boss guides done like this very soon. See you next time.